Hello everybody, we're back with more Expedition gameplay. This time we're featuring a deck that I'm calling Arbor Day. It's effectively a Mono Justice Empower deck, which is maybe not the typical way you would hear those words said. Usually we'd be looking at Combri Empower because there are a lot of powerful Combri strategies, but I wanted to take it in a little bit of a different direction here. Might work, it might not, we'll find out today. So the core of this deck is around cards like District Infantry that become Empower 2/2, and then of course Hojan the Crownbreaker, which also gets +2/+2 with Empower, and then the Gilded Glaive, which also gives +2/+2 on Empower. Now all of those are only this turn, which means you need to be able to play a lot of power cards in order to make this work. You've got to get them into play. In order to do that, we're going to be using things like Siraf's Beacon, which every time we attack with 3 or more creatures, we will put a power into play, a Justice Sigil specifically. And this one also creates a District Infantry when we play it. So effectively we have 8 District Infantry in the deck, kind of. And then in order to make sure that we can continue to use the Siraf's Beacon, we have to have a good source of units. So that's where Golem Press is going to come in. This will help us create a Golem. Also, it's good at holding the Glaive, because if you make a Golem and you put a Glaive on it, instantly you've got a 3/3 double striking creature that every time you play a power becomes a 5/5 double striking creature, which means in late game situations you have the ability to be swinging in for 10 damage to your opponent's face. That's pretty powerful. And then to further abuse all of these Empower triggers, we have the Order of the Spire, which is every time we empower, we double the Order of the Spire's power and life. Now, the cool thing about this is that includes all temporary benefits also. For instance, if you were to put a Gilded Glaive on an Order of the Spire, you now have a 3/3. Play a power, it's going to jump up to a 5/5, and then a 10/10, and then at the end of the turn, it's going to lose 2 of that power from the Gilded Glaive, meaning that it's going to become an 8/8. So it's a really interesting way that interaction works. Usually, if I remember it, the triggers stack that way. The Glaive having come in after the Spire means the Glaive will activate first, and then the Spire will activate, so you get Glaive trigger, Spire trigger. I'm pretty sure that's the way that works. We'll find out while we're playing. And then just to kind of round out the creature base, we have a Svetya's Faithful. It's just a really efficient creature if you can get the Onslaught, and the Warp means you kind of get a bit of a card draw effect that this deck lacks to a large degree. And then a Crownwatch Paladin because it's just good at carrying weapons like the Feather or the Glaive. The Feather is here in consideration for the fact that we have the Hojan, and we want to make sure that we can activate the Hojan's Renown effect, which also lets us put power into play. So that's kind of the deck that we're working with. And then just to kind of finish it off, we have some control in the Auric Runehammer and the Avigraft. Both of those are basically going to be used as removal here, although the Auric Runehammer can double over as a way to hit your opponent's face. That's kind of useful. Avigraft is just really nice against, frustrating creatures that you can't kill with the hammer. It will get rid of them and also make sure your opponent can't play them again. It is a little bit late game, but with all of our Empower effects and power finding effects, hopefully we'll be able to get this down. And then we also have 2 copies of Pristine Light, just in case we need to sweep a board of really big things against like the Combri decks and maybe the Feln decks if we can get there. And then a card that I'm usually pretty down on, but when I was just looking through everything, ended up being the card we had to go for, was Retribution. It's a slow, silence, and stun, which means you can use it in advance to silence a unit, stun it, and then be able to swing through. Now, the downside is it's expensive for that effect. The upside is that this is one of the few Mono Justice just pick a unit, kill it, no requirements, other than we do have to have Onslaught, but hopefully our swings will be good enough that we'll be able to kind of get through there. Or with the Golem Press, we'll have a throwaway unit that we can just swing in whatever we don't care. They go to block, we say, okay, cool, we lost our Golem, that sucks. Retribution, and clean up, problematic creatures. So I'm not usually the biggest fan of this card, but because we are Mono Justice specifically, we don't have a lot of better options. So we're going to go ahead and put this one in and see how it functions. And that's the deck. Let's go ahead and get to some games. Here we are with Game 1 against Ace Brew. And this is So close to keepable. If we had one more power in this hand to start out with, like if this Retribution, this Avigraft were a power, this would be a pretty sweet hand. But as is, we can't keep that. We're going to go ahead and mulligan it back, redraw. This one is not the most aggressive hand, but we do have 2 turn 2 plays. Probably the Crownwatch is going to be the first one we do, and then we have a follow-up weapon we can toss on the Crownwatch. So we'll keep this one. We'll see how it goes. Start off with Justice Sigil, pass turn to Ace Brew. Ace Brew is running a 105 card deck. This will be interesting. They go ahead and seek power. They're also playing Justice. I don't know if it's mono Justice yet. We'll find out. That Glaive was a really good draw for us, by the way. Pass the turn back to our opponent. Our next turn is probably going to be Golem Press, or Swing, Golem Press, Coin. Is probably what we're going to end up doing here. Okay, well, that doesn't really change much on what we're going to do. Well, never mind. That does kind of change things a little bit. We can go ahead and play the Justice Sigil and the Glaive. Swing in now with our 4/4. Probably not going to be the best thing for our opponent to block here. And they decide not to block. Okay, cool. Pass turn to our opponent. It'd be really nice if we could use this on that to break the Aegis and then just Avigraft it, but oh well. We play with what we've got. Now, we didn't include some cards that might be for consideration, such as Valkyrie Enforcer. You know, it's something to think about. We weren't really looking that direction, but it is one of the more powerful. It's one of the most powerful 3-drops in the game, and it's one of the more powerful Justice cards. So that's kind of saying a lot for it when you say it's one of the more powerful Justice cards. Opponent, what are you going to do here? Now, this is going to lead to some unfortunate missequencing. No, not really missequencing, but some unfortunate sequencing for us, because we're probably going to want to swing with our 4/4. Obviously, we're going to take this hit. Our opponent has a pump spell of some kind. That's a little disturbing. Hopefully, we draw regular power. We didn't. Ooh, we drew another Glaive, though. That is an interesting pickup for us. I think what we're going to do is... Okay, if they've got specifically a Finest Hour, this is going to be a problem. We know they've got something fast. Let's go ahead and drop the Emerald Coin, get the pump, swing, and probably not get a block here. We're basically in a race situation, and I think our Golem and our Avigraft are going to help us with that a lot. What does the opponent have that they would use against us on our Aegis creature? Oh, they might have a Defiance also. I didn't think about that one until just now. Play the Golem Press. Pass the turn. Golem Press is going to be pretty huge for us here, I think. It's going to let us continue swinging in and profitably blocking, so we're going to try to get one of those down. We're not going to put more pants on our Paladin, though. Opponent plays more power, swings in, decides not to. Okay. We want to get them a little lower on cards before we commit this Glaive, I think. Vanquish, okay. Slow Vanquish, and then probably Defiance next turn is what I'm expecting. Oh no, just double Vanquish. Okay, I'm actually pretty okay with double Vanquish, because that means if we can get these fast spells out of their hand, we're going to have a pretty good position here. It looks like they're playing a 105 card Warcry deck, which is a little odd. Not gonna lie. It's a little unexpected. Obviously, we're going to keep the Golem back to block, do nothing else. Opponent draws. What are they doing? They are Fire Sigil. Okay. If they drop something big here, hopefully something Avigraft. Oh, Hero the people. Please don't give that Aegis, because I am more than willing to hero to deal with that. So that we're going to block the 2/2. Excellent. We pull the Finest Hour. That is very nice for us. Okay, another Golem Press is not really what we're looking for. We're going to take a little bit of damage here, but we can Avigraft the hero before it gets out of control. Specifically because we know there are Aegis spells. We don't want to let them give this Aegis. Now, unfortunately, with a 105 card deck, Avigraft loses a lot of its secondary functionality, and because they're in fire, they might have a way of killing that, but you know, we'll deal with that when it comes to that time. Now the good news is, if they do somehow kill this, unfortunately the second Golem Press is not useful to us. We will... we really needed power there. We needed this to be power. We can drop this, but that's not going to be that beneficial to us. Let's go ahead and drop another Golem. We have to go in defensive stance here. Yeah, extra Golem Presses do not, they don't stack, unfortunately. And because we're in Mono Justices, another thing I didn't really talk about, we can't have a Merchant. That's one of the nice things about the expeditions is, I mean, it's kind of unfortunate that they punish monocolor more, but it's an interesting decision in that you can have consistency of not having to worry about power draw issues, unless of course you're in one of the three that have their insignias. But you give up your merchants for that, which means that certain cards like Golem Press lose a lot of value. So stunning my Golem is interesting because that means that I'm not going to be able to play another Golem next turn. So we're really going to need to draw something here. And that is an interesting one. We're going to drop the Siraf Beacon now while it's a decent idea to drop. Pass the turn to our opponent. We're still not getting power, which is very, very bad for us. Very good for our opponent. We're going to want to kill this Golem so we can get a better Golem. Yeah, that's not going to survive. No blocks. We'll take this damage. Our goal here is going to be to stabilize. Power is useful. Most likely they're not going to kill this if we swing with it. So that'll give us the ability to Pristine Light if we want. If we play this and swing, they might. And then we can replay that one, get a little bit of damage through. But I want to keep this back as a blocker, so let's try this play. Let's do this. Swing with this. See what happens. I'm assuming no blocks here, but we'll see. We'll see kind of the direction our opponent goes. Our goal is going to be to block with this and let it die off. Okay. Because of that, we don't really need to use the Pristine Light. We can just use the Retribution instead. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's Retribution this. Pass the turn. We'll just keep holding this Golem Press as a bluff. Yeah, because they check to see if you just have a Steel Golem in play in general, so... Okay, opponent draws. They're thinking hard about this play. Longsword. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. So we're going to go ahead and block here. That's going to give us something to do with our Retribution. Or our Pristine Light, rather. Ooh. A Svetya's Faithful on top. I am a fan of that. So what we're going to do is go ahead and 3 for this, 2 for that. So... drop the Justice Sigil. Swing for 3. And then we have to decide, do we want to play out the Golem Press? Do we want to play out the Faithful? We're going to drop the Faithful. We're going to Pristine Light, which is going to kill off the Oni Samurai. And then if they don't have a pump spell, we can block the 2-2 with the 3-3. And pass turn and see what happens. We might be to the point where we want to start dropping Glaives. Although getting a Golem out before we do that will be a good idea. Oh, World Pyre Phoenix. That is going to be tough for us to deal with. That's going to be very tough to deal with. We don't need that. We need this. Okay, so our hope here is going to be that they swing out and that we can get them on the crackback. Because they are at 9. If they don't draw pump, don't draw weapon, and they decide to get frisky here, we might get them. This is a very close game. If this had been anything useful... Oh, and there's the feather for the loss for us. That was... good top decks, opponent. Good top decks. Oh, man, that was a close game. And here we are against Demars. And this is not the best hand, but once again, we have a turn 2, and then we have some turn 3 removal. We'll keep this and see what we can do. Start off with Justice Sigil, of course. Pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent Plays a Justice Sigil also because why not? Justice is the most powerful color. For our turn, we're going to play the Justice Sigil. We're going to go ahead and drop the Crownwatch Paladin, pass the turn back. Opponent draws a card and no play. They kept a 1-power hand. We're going to start with a swing. Deal the 2, drop a Justice Sigil. Now, I didn't notice that we were going to have a pause there, so we'll put this Faithful out so we have a 3-3 and pass the turn back to our opponent. Opponent draws. They did draw a Justice Sigil this time, so they're on 2. Play a Rebuke. See, so that's what I was talking about with the Retribution. It's basically Rebuke, but one more, except it's got the kill effect on it. We're going to play a... We'll swing first, actually. And this is the nice thing about the Siraf's Beacon. We can play the Siraf's Beacon here knowing that we can drop the Gilded Glaive next turn and have a big swing. Pass the turn back to our opponent. Now, thankfully, this unit doesn't matter if it's silenced. It's just a 3-3, so that's going to be helpful for us. Opponent drops a 3-2. Now, this is going to become a 3-3. This is just going to be a 2-2. So any swing we make here is going to kill this. So we have to decide where to put this sword. And I think where I want to put that sword is... Let's put the sword on the Paladin because the Paladin's our most useful unit. Swing with all 3. They're probably going to be forced into blocking something. That's going to be a lot of damage otherwise. And the Paladin will survive something like a Pristine Light, so we're a little okay with that. We're really going to put our opponent on the back foot since they stumbled on power early on. Opponent is deep in the tank over these blocks. Deep in the tank over these blocks. I guess they're trying to decide whether they want to chump or if they want to trade. Opponent's going to have to decide soon. And it looks like we're getting salt roped off of a bad keep. Interesting decision, opponent. Opponent draws. And... Yep. It looks like the opponent is just upset they kept a bad hand, and so they're going to go ahead and salt rope this one. That's perfectly fine with us. We're going to drop the Order of the Spire. Make our swings. Just kind of try to put this game up early without having to wait through all the rope. And there we go. That is game. Uneventful game. Don't keep bad hands, I guess, is the lesson there. On to another game. And here we have game 3 against Kitchen Lattice. Okay. Looking at this hand, we've got 2 power. We could drop a coin early, but we don't really have something we really want to be throwing down for 2. A 1-1 for 2 is not really that great. So I think we can get better if we redraw. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Here we're looking at a much better hand. We have a turn 1 and then nothing until turn 3, but we do have an emerald coin for turn 2. So that's effectively like having a turn 2 play. So we're gonna go ahead and keep this hand. Drop the Justice Sigil, play the District Infantry, pass the turn. Now here we have a decision to make about whether or not we want to give a permanent pump to the Infantry, but drawing that Justice Sigil actually kind of makes that decision easier. So we can go ahead and play the Justice Sigil, swing in for 3, and this is going to allow us to, on curve, drop a Siraf's Beacon, which is just going to be very nice. Ooh, this could be a little interesting here. And there's the Torch. So we are against Rakano, one of the more powerful decks in the format right now. Pass the turn back. If you read my article, you'd see that that was kind of the prediction. And it's unfortunate that it's true, but it is. Now, luckily, in Expedition as opposed to Ladder, it's just... you know, reasonably powerful instead of oppressively powerful. So there's a little bit going for us there. Let's see. We're going to go ahead and play the Justice Sigil. Get aggressive with our 3-3. Blocking is not really going to help us here. We're going to have to hope that we find some of our better ones. Now, we could look at dropping another unit, or we could look at killing this Rakano Outlaw. And I think that in this situation with where we are, it might be best for us to go ahead and drop the Siraf's Beacon. What this is going to allow is for us to Pristine Light on what they've stuck Warcries onto, and then use the Retribution later. Because right now, we kind of win this race. Our units are going to be getting bigger than theirs as long as we continue to drop power, and we do have some good power drops. At least next turn we have one, and then if we can find another unit, we'll have one the turn after. Now we're getting into dangerous territory for us, so we can go ahead and get have our cake and eat it too with this play. Drop the Auric Runehammer, kill the 3/3. Now because we swung with a weapon, our coin is active, so we can drop our coin, pump both of our units, and also put the coin down, which is going to allow us to swing in for 7. Their crackback is for 6, and we're currently on 20, so we're in an okay position here. Now, unfortunately, we're going to need to get another power draw, or we're going to have a little bit of a problem. But we'll see what happens. Opponent swings in. Okay, interesting. Now, this is where we're going to go ahead and do things in a slightly backward order. We're going to go ahead and drop the Pristine Light first, which is going to kill off the Champion of Glory. Keeps our District Infantry alive. Play this. Swing in with both of these two. And then, just to keep the counts down, we might go ahead and... No, actually, we don't need to. If our opponent gets aggressive, we can always use the stun portion of the Retribution. So I think we're fine doing this. I was going to say at first that we could Retribution something down. Okay, so that's 8. This is going to be a little more tough now. Play the Hojan. And we're going to Retribution their Oni. Pass the turn. Now the reason is because if they don't draw a torture removal here, we're hopefully going to be able to swing with all 3 and gain some life with the Hojan. Especially if we draw a weapon to put on Hojan. If we find like a feather here, Hojan will just win us this game. We're gonna take this hit and hope they don't have a pump spell, because blocking doesn't help us. Okay, we're still looking for that feather. Glaive works. So we're going to go ahead and drop a Glaive on the Hojan. That's going to pump everybody. And then we're going to go ahead and swing, which is going to pump everybody into lethal range, and that should be the win unless they have a Defiance. But once again, not going for the win isn't going to really help us, so we just kind of got to go for it. This gain 16 is also going to be very beneficial. Once again, unless they have Defiance. And there we go. Empower, taking it down. Okay, so that was 3 games with the Arbor Day deck that we just kind of put together on a whim because there were some older ones here. You could take the shell of Hojan, District Infantry, and the Siraf's Beacon and put it into like a Combry shell, and it might end up being a little bit better. You could get, say, Desert Marshals and things like that for some better effect. You could also have Merchants, so you could have a little bit more flexibility there. You give up a little bit in the way of the not having to worry so much about your power, not having to worry so much about running a lot of Justice Sigils over things like that. So you give up some consistency for that, but you gain consistency via like your merchants and things. So give it a try. Either try the Mono Justice version or toss together a Combry version and, go out and enjoy some expeditions, guys. And I'll talk to you all later. Bye.